mission is to build community, search for meaning, deepen our spirituality, and make a better world. To learn more about First Parish or Unitarian Universalism, please visit uuwayland.org or contact Kate Holland, Director of Lifespan Education and Engagement. Please also reach out to a member of the Parish Committee or to Reverend Stephanie May if you have ideas or questions about First Parish. A big thanks to all our other service participants whose names are listed in the order of service. And I have a quick announcement about next week, because next week is going to be a little bit different. The focus is on religious education for everyone, and the focus is going to be on Christianity next week. There is a book that says, "Please borrow me." Stephanie gave this to me. She's got the only copy around for now. So she'd love to have someone else read the book besides her. So if anybody wants it, you can come up after the service and get it. Also next week, there's going to be a blessing of the animals and a sing-along. So it's going to be a little unusual next week. So read your e-blast to learn more about those events. Please note that to keep us all safe, we currently recommend that those in person remain masked. All participants who unmask have tested negative this morning. Please join me now in taking a moment to say hello to one another, including a wave to the camera and those online. Welcome again, and let our service begin.
in this sacred art of building religious community. As we begin, I invite the Levine family to come forward and up, we're doing something different today, to light our chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and then actually there's a stand. There should be a candle and a stand. And we also are trying to get a special candle to celebrate that today is the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, which begins at sundown this evening. And we'll hear a song later.
With open eyes and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world.
WIC problems today.
How many Unitarian Universalists does it take to light a
How many Unitarian Universalists does it take to light a candle?
All of us.
All of us together.
Good morning. Our first hymn this morning is Around. And it's going to be relatively easy because it's in the hymnal. It's number 188. And I think we've done it before, so many of us will have done it before. So there are 4 parts. And I'm going to ask the first part to be this side toward the windows. The second part to be this side toward the aisle. The third side to be this side toward the aisle. And the fourth part to be that side toward the windows. I will play a little intro for us. We'll sing it all through together once, and then I'll cue the 4 parts that come in. First part, second part, third part, fourth part. We'll sing it through twice as a group. For extra credit, if you're in this section or this section or this section, you will finish before them. You can continue to sing Come Yet Again, Come until everybody's done. That's extra credit. So Polly, can you please play us in? Everybody together now.
Thank you, Charlie. We're getting much better under Charlie's tutelage during those rounds. My name is Kate Holland. I'm the Director of Lifespan Education and Engagement here at First Parish. My pronouns are she, her. So this morning I have a story in a forest, and by a stream there is a creature hopping. And it's a baby. It's learning its way. It's never hopped before. It's stretching its legs. All of a sudden, he hears a voice. What are you doing over there? Well, I'm hopping, says the little hopper. And so he says, oh, what do you do if you don't hop? He said to the other person, well, I slither. And so the hopper was very, very confused. How could you slither? Everybody hops. And the slitherer went, well, maybe you can teach me how to hop. So the slitherer tried it out. And it was like, whoosh, whoosh, and looked really funny and kind of got in a tangle trying to hop. Well, the hopper started to laugh. And the slitherer started to laugh too. And they thought it was really funny. And the slitherer says, let me teach you how to slither. Well, the hopper said, sure, that sounds fun. And the hopper tried to slither, but ended up rolling on its back and kind of not having an easy time. But you know what? They both started laughing. It was hysterical. And so they spent the day just laughing and trying to hop and trying to slither, and they had a great time. But the sun started to come down, and they knew it was time to go home. And so the hopper went home and was really happy. And her mom says, why are you so happy? Well, I met a new friend. It was really cool. And they did this weird thing they called slithering, and it was really strange. Hopper's mom went, what? What? Do you know you were playing with a snake? Snakes are the worst! And they eat creatures like us. Well, Hopper was kind of surprised and was like, oh. Mom said, don't you ever play with that snake again. Okay? And so the slitherer got home and was kind of happy too. And their mom said, hey, what happened today that made you so happy? The slitherer said, I had the best time. I met a new friend, and they did the weirdest thing. They hopped. Oh. The mother looks at him and goes, what? Did you know you were playing with a frog? Frogs are the worst. They are slimy, and they're delicious too. But they're slimy, and they're not nice, and you shouldn't play with the frog again. Don't play with your food. And the snake was like, oh, okay, oh, okay. Well, the next day came around, and on the bank, the frog was sitting and saw the snake. They sat pretty far apart. They decided, they looked at each other, and they were like, hey, what are you doing here? Well, I'm just hanging out. What are you doing? I'm just hanging out too. But my mom says I can't play with you. And so we both sat on the bank of the river, looking at each other. And sat there and watched the river. I like this story because it kind of gives us an observation. How do we come to things that are very different from ourselves? Do we come in a playful, curious way, like the frog and the snake did at first? Or do we listen to other people around us telling us, no, that's really not okay, it's just too different? So it's something really interesting, I think, to think about today. How do you come to something new and different? And maybe you can think about, do you want to do that in a different way? Before we leave, I'm going to ask my Sikh friends to come up for just a minute. Can you guys come up really quick? So we are working together on a computer program called Minecraft. And what we are doing today is we are going to make a model of what our Unitarian Universalist congregation looks like. So I want you guys up front. So I want you to look over this way. Look at the things that you see. And then I want you to look back behind you. What do you see there? Down on the floor? What do you see up higher? And then I'm going to ask you to look over here. What do you see this way? Just remember the things that you see so we
from A New Religious America by Diane Eck, who's the director of Pluralism Project at Harvard Divinity School. And it was published in 2001, just before 9/11. But the story itself remains deeply relevant today. Historians tell us that America has always been a land of many religions. And this is true. A vast, textured pluralism was already present in the lifeways of the native peoples, even before the European settlers came to these shores. The people who came across the Atlantic from Europe also had diverse religious traditions: Spanish and French Catholics, British Anglicans and Quakers, Sephardic Jews, and Dutch Reformed Christians. As we shall see, the diversity broadened over the course of 300 years of settlement. Many of the African brought to these shores with slave trade were Muslims. The Chinese and Japanese who came to seek their fortune in the mines and fields of the West, they brought with them a mixture of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. The stories of all these people are an important part of America's immigration history. The immigrants of the last 3 decades, however, have expanded the diversity of our religious life dramatically, exponentially. I mean, Buddhists have come from Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, China, and Korea. Hindus from India, East Africa, and Trinidad. Muslims from Indonesia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Middle East, and Nigeria. Sikhs and Jains from India, and Zoroastrians from both India and Iran. Immigrants from Haiti and Cuba have brought Afro-Caribbean traditions, blending both African and Catholic symbols and images. New Jewish immigrants have come from Russia and the Ukraine, and the internal diversity of American Judaism is greater than ever before. The face of American Christianity has also changed with large Latino, Filipino, and Vietnamese Catholic communities. Chinese, Haitian, and Brazilian Pentecostal communities, Korean Presbyterians, Indian Mar Thomas, and Egyptian Copts. In every city in the land, church signboards display the meeting times of Korean and Latino congregations, the next within the walls of old urban Protestant and Catholic churches. Through these same decades, since the liberalization of immigration policy in 1965, the moral majority and the Christian coalition have raised the public profile of fundamentalist Christianity. The language of a Christian America has been voluminously invoked in the public square. But make no mistake, in the past 30 years, as Christianity has become more publicly vocal, something else as enormously important has happened. The United States has become the most religiously diverse nation on earth.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for pinch hitting me at the last minute, too, for that. Our middle hymn is The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time. We thought of this because of the Jewish New Year of Rosh Hashanah and that sense of marking time and the new year. So please remain seated for number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time, as we enter into this period of reflection and prayer.
watch the world around us turn to different colors. The air feels different, and the sun leaves us a little earlier every day. The world around us has changed and is changing. But then so have we. Since this time last fall, our community is open in a way it could not be last year. People have both departed from us and joined us, and we are creating something new. Many of us have experienced personal changes, both great and small. We are mindful of the ways in which, for every season, change can bring a sense of renewal, but it can also bring with it risk and grief. Our thoughts today are with the activists in Iran who are demanding change in their country, and we pray for their safety in the face of government crackdowns. We also hold and love the people of Puerto Rico, many of whom are still struggling with the after effects of Hurricane Maria and are now dealing with the changes to their homes and livelihoods that Hurricane Fiona has brought. And we are also mindful of the loss of a young life in our own community here in Wayland, and we pray for those who are grieving, those whose lives have been irrevocably changed in ways they may not have imagined a week ago. We are holding them in love. Let us pause for a moment of stillness, an opportunity to reflect on how change has shown up in our lives and the lives of those around us.
Good morning. My name is Eric Felton. I am a lay minister of this congregation. Now is the time in our service that we set aside to share our joys and sorrows. I'd like to thank everyone who's submitted a joy or sorrow ahead of time. We're trying to figure out the logistics of how to do this, so please, I give you my thanks for bearing with us. So there was one submitted joy and sorrow, and that was, I want to recognize that September 23rd was Celebrating Bisexuality Day. This is a day to celebrate a group that often feels overlooked, a group that reminds us that every person is deserving of love and every person has love to give. I will now invite anyone who wishes to speak up to the microphone.
Hi, I'm Joel Angelillo. Later in the service, we're going to, the choral response is words by Vincent Silliman. I just want to comment that Vincent Silliman, he was a longtime Unitarian minister, also an ancestor of my wife, Lori, in the back there. And we inherited, he died in 1979, a while ago, but we inherited his cottage in Maine, and along with it came a little shed where he wrote his hymns and his words and his sermons. And so just last year, we put new siding on it. This year, raised it up, painted it, put on a new screen door, and I, for the first time, actually worked in this little 6-foot by 6-foot shed of Vincent Silliman. So I was thinking about the hymn we just sang, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time, and in particular, the line, the present slips into the past. Thank you.
will now light a candle to remember all of the joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts.
Big joy in our house this week has been that they are playing Minecraft in Seek this morning. My son has been counting down the days for Minecraft. He even asked, he had multiple questions that I had to message Miss Kate and ask her about. Are we doing creative mode? Are we doing builder mode? I don't know what those mean, but they're very exciting and very important questions for my little guy. So with that said, I'm just so grateful that he's excited about Seek. He loves going to Seek. I love that there's a place just for him. He always has such a fun time. He's met so many of the kids here, and they all have a really good time together. So I'm so grateful for that program, and I'm grateful that donations contribute to that program and help us keep it going and hopefully keep going for the next generations. So with your continued support, we're going to probably have more fun Minecraft days and other fun Seek days as well. If you are online, you can donate by going to uuwayland.org/donate. You can download the Vanco, that's VANCO, mobile app on your smartphone. You can also text 833-264-0104. If you're in person, we're going to pass around the offering plate in just a moment. If you have already donated online, you see these orange cards. They're relatively new. I think this is Karen's brilliant idea. She's here today. It says, I gave electronically. And so this kind of gives you some of those ways you can donate electronically. And if you just want to brag that you donated electronically, and also kind of give us an awareness that there's more opportunities for donation, go ahead and drop that in the basket as well. So we will gratefully receive the offering now. Thank you.
Thank you, choir, for singing something, working on something new and different for us today for Rosh Hashanah. Where I grew up, religious difference meant Catholics. West Michigan was the land of the blonde descendants and immigrants of the Dutch Reformed. Sure, there were Lutherans, Baptists, and Methodists. Protestant Christians were everywhere. Catholics were the closest thing to religious diversity I thought we had. In high school, I did befriend a Mormon classmate. Admittedly, I did some reading and talked with my new friend to try to discern if he was in a cult. I'm not sure when I first met someone who identified as Jewish, although I read a lot of Jewish authors, Chaim Potok, Elie Wiesel, Anne Frank. So sometimes I mistook this for actual knowledge. Really, it was not until moving to Cambridge for grad school in 2013 that I began to experience real religious diversity. My neighbor, Hoda, a Muslim woman, provided invaluable support to me and to my then 5-year-old son. And studying at Harvard Divinity School exposed me to scholars and students of multiple religions, as well as some adherents of diverse traditions. Still, I didn't get it. Not really. My lack of real understanding became clearer when I began working as a teaching assistant for an Introduction to Christianity class. As it turned out, the whole class was headed for conflict, not just the small discussion section I led. On the one hand, those in charge of the curriculum had decided to require this course for all first-year students in the Masters of Divinity, or MDiv program. On the other hand, the admissions department, keeping in line with the wider vision of the school as multi-religious, had begun recruiting non-Christians to the MDiv program, which had been traditionally Christian. Combined, this meant that a bunch of non-Christians were suddenly required to take a class in Christianity. But the teaching staff of the class presumed incorrectly that their audience would be primarily Christian. As the course proceeded with its Christian bias, the non-Christian students felt increasingly isolated, unseen, and angry. With my own Christian background and limited understanding of other traditions, including Unitarian Universalism at that point, I too failed to perceive the problem. For example, in a week about sin, I simply asked the Buddhist students in my discussion section how Buddhism understood the problem of sin. As you may know, the concept of sin is itself a Christian concept that doesn't even appear as a problem in Buddhism. Just asking the question the way I did revealed my ignorance and my bias. Slowly, in that course and in other multi-faith contexts, I began to understand that differences in religion were not simply a matter of translating terms from one faith to another. Rather, vast differences in perceiving and relating to the nature of the universe exist between religions. Certainly, there can be places of common values or even similar beliefs or practices. But sometimes there are just differences. When encountering differences in religions, the way people respond varies. Some people focus on the common ground. This can be a particularly popular approach in religious traditions that have historical or structural overlap. For example, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are sometimes referred to as the people of the book because of their shared reverence for written sacred scripture, as well as for grounding in some of the same stories regarding Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. Sharing belief in one God, commitment to written scriptures, and root stories creates a fertile base for interfaith dialogue in these three traditions. While finding common ground may create a basis for bridge building across differences, sometimes religions are just different. And so another approach to encountering difference is to show tolerance for these differences. For example, this might mean supporting laws that protect the rights for religious observance or dress in the workplace or school. In short, tolerance accepts others doing their thing over there, but stops short of actively engaging or understanding the other. Religion scholar Diana Eck describes such tolerance as a necessary public virtue, but she promotes pluralism as another approach to encountering difference. Pluralism is the energetic engagement with diversity, explains Eck. This means the active seeking of understanding across lines of difference. We do not simply stay in religious ghettos tolerating one another's presence. Rather, we try to understand each other. Seeking to understand other religions does not, however, mean abandoning one's own religious commitments. Pluralism does not mean relativism. Rather, as Eck explains, the new paradigm of pluralism does not require us to leave our identities and commitments behind. For pluralism is the encounter of commitments. It means holding our deepest differences, even our religious differences, not in isolation, but in relationship to each other. Pluralism means the active encountering of difference through dialogue. Such dialogue may mean agreement or common ground is not always found. As Eck writes, dialogue does not mean everyone agrees. Rather, pluralism involves the commitment to being at the table with one's commitments. I think how we choose to encounter differences matters greatly. Because another way that people respond to the encounter with difference is to denounce those who are different, actively seek to exclude them, and at times violently attack them. Indeed, how people choose to respond to those who are different is fueling major conflict in our nation. And while this conflict plays out along many lines of difference, one significant category of difference is religion. In her 2001 book, A New Religious America, Eck explores the exponential growth of religious diversity in the United States. Furthermore, she connects this religious diversity to the 1965 Immigration Act, which enabled new waves of immigration from across the globe. This is a connection I had not really understood before I read the book. When we argue about immigration, we are not just talking about ethnicity, race, or national origin. We are often also talking about the religious commitments that immigrants bring with them. Of course, immigration has been hotly contested in the US long before our own time. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act to effectively bar an entire group by race and class. In the same year, another immigration act excluded other categories of people, including, quote, those likely to become a public charge, which meant excluding all manner of poor folks. Still, immigration proceeded at a brisk pace, with a record 14.9% of the US population being foreign-born in 1890. Then, amidst a culture of xenophobia and fear following World War I, Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1924, which imposed severe quotas of who could immigrate while prioritizing immigrants from Europe. Immigration rates would continually fall in the coming decades So not even 5% of the US population was foreign born by 1965. The Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965 shifted this trend by opening immigration based on family reunification, employment, and refugee status. Additionally, the law opened the doors to immigrants to non-European countries in unprecedented numbers. 30 years later, when Eck wrote about the new religious diversity in America in 2001, the number of foreign-born in the US had more than doubled from 4.7% in 1970 to 10.4%. And in the 20 years since Eck's book, the number of foreign-born in the US stood at 13.7% in 2018, more than triple the percentage from 1965, though still short of that 1890 record. However, since the total population of the US population has grown since 1965, this means that the actual number of immigrants in the US has in fact quadrupled to reach a record high 44.8 million in 2018. These numbers are statistical fact. The US simply has more immigrants living here than at any other time in its history. Immigrants from Europe, Mexico, China, India, Thailand, Uganda, Afghanistan, and so many other places. Immigrants who are Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, and Christian. Immigrants who worship one God, many gods, or no God. Immigrants who gather in houses within neighborhoods that function as Buddhist monastery and temple in one. And immigrants who have constructed immense new houses of worship, such as the Hindu Sri Lakshmi Temple in Ashland, dedicated in 1986. Here in Wayland, if you drove through town in 1965, I believe you would only have found us in Christian congregations. The Islamic Center of Boston was established in 1979. After first meeting in Cambridge, the Islamic Center moved in 1988 to a large house in Wayland before building their current center on the same site in the 1990s. Temple Shir Tikva began meeting here at First Parish in 1978 before moving to renovated space at their current site in 1981. And in 1991, Congregation Or Atid began meeting here before moving to their own religious home. And I couldn't find the details of how long they were here, but I think it was several years. And there's a beautiful sign downstairs from them thanking us. For some time, Wayland has also included a Baha'i community who actively gathers but does not have a building of their own. And in 2016, the Christian community expanded when a Coptic congregation purchased the former Episcopal Church on Rice Road. And most recently, St. Luke Anglican Church of Uganda in Boston has begun renting space from the Lutheran Church on Concord Road. As post-1965 immigration changed demographics in the US, it also changed the religious landscape of Wayland. In other words, the story of religious diversity and immigration is both a national story and a very local story. It is also a story that continues today with tremendous implications for how the we of this nation gets defined. In today's context of contested immigration and racial tension, to make a commitment to religious pluralism has political implications by supporting an expanded we. Given the inextricable overlap of immigration and religious diversity, to support a vision of a multi-religious nation is to also affirm the value and dignity of immigrants. To affirm religious pluralism in the US is to soundly reject the notion of a national we defined narrowly as Christians of white European ancestry. Over the course of this coming program year, we will consider together what it means to be committed to pluralism as a way of actively encountering difference. Each month, we will seek to actively engage a different religious tradition, starting with Christianity in October. And as Lee announced, next Sunday, we're going to do a special RE for everyone that engages Christianity from different places. Throughout the year, we will also explore other kinds of human difference that create divisions and conflict all too often. As we engage this theme, my hope is that we not only consider how to affirm pluralism in our town and in our nation, but also here within our religious community. We are different from each other by age, by profession, by economic resources, by family structure, and yes, by religious beliefs and practices. How might we actively seek understanding across lines of differences, both within and beyond these walls? That is my question for us this year. Amen. Our closing hymn is from the Teal hymnal. It's number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please rise in body or in spirit, and on that last verse, turn to the rear. Okay, I am done talking. We can go eat the bacon that we can smell, okay? And if you're online and nearby, please, you're welcome to hop over if you're able. Sustained by our connections to each other and to all that is holy, let us go and be beyond these walls, bringing more light and life, love and justice to our shared religiously diverse world. Amen.